Sometimes people would they'd be too regimented. And on that note, some guys and girls can't work alone. We traditionally work alone. But if you think about it, it's totally normal. I mean, we build fire teams, we build squads, we build platoons, we build companies. And what do? We have competitions, and it's Charlie Company versus Bravo Company, and first squad versus third squad, right? And you build that unit cohesion, then I had my first team leader in the unit. I didn't meet him for 2 years.
Welcome to Combat Story. I'm Ryan Fugit, and I served warzone tours as an Army attack helicopter pilot and CIA officer over a 15-year career. I'm fascinated by the experiences of the elite in combat. On this show, I interview some of the best to understand what combat felt like on their front lines. This is Combat Story. Today we have our second round interview with retired USASOC Sergeant Major Sean Haggerty. Sean retired only a few years ago after close to 25 years in service that included combat with the Ranger Regiment in both Afghanistan and Iraq, followed by many years in the Tier 1 community. Sean is releasing his second book, Cabal, in the Dane Cooper series, following the success of his first book, Jones Point. We discuss Jones Point as well as some of Sean's more direct combat experiences in our first round interview that you should definitely check out. The Dane Cooper series are truly novels, not memoirs or biographies, but certainly draw on Sean's experience with weapons, enemy networks, and the U.S. government and law enforcement entities. In this episode, we talk about some of his own leadership lessons downrange, some of the best leaders he worked with, and more about his writing process and how he applies his experience from elite special operations units to his work as an author today. Cabal comes out on June 6th, 2025. You can find it easily on Amazon or wherever you get your books. Please buy a copy for both a good read, but also to help a well-deserving combat vet. With that, please enjoy round two with Sean Haggerty. Sean, thanks for coming back on and talking a little bit more with us about your stories.
Thanks for having me back. It's been about 10 months, but
Yep.
I'm sure a lot's happened for both of us.
No, for sure. And obviously one of the bigger reasons we're meeting is the new book, Cabal. So last time was Jones Point. You had mentioned that was successful enough that people were interested in getting more of this. We've got a new one coming out June 6th for people who are listening and want to grab it. We'll have info in the description, but kind of still the Dane Cooper series. And I guess As we talk more about it, I recall from our last interview that you said you handwrite your books to begin with. Is this still true?
This is still true. Now, I have come a long ways in modern technology because of my wife. So the first one I wrote on yellow legal notepads. I've got a stack of them down here to my left. This time she says she was sick and tired of watching me every evening come set the notepads on a little stand and type into the computer. She's like, "You're a barbarian." And she bought me one of those Remarkables. So I just write on the bus and the train on the Remarkables, and then you convert to text and zap to the computer. Now, it's not perfect, right? The bus hits a pothole, the train shakes a little bit, and I'm the thing. But for the most part, it probably saved me about 30, 40 minutes a week.
And this is on your commutes, basically. You're writing the book.
This book was completely finished all on commutes or airplanes. I went out to the USS Nimitz. We can talk about that. It went for work. I actually wrote while I was on the ship. I couldn't take pictures and do anything because that would be mixing my government job with my kind of commercial enterprise. So I couldn't do any. I could post videos of me on there, which I did. Yeah. But I can't advertise the book. But I did set up my bunk where I had about this much clearance to the ceiling. I don't know how the Navy does it. I always pick on them, but now I feel bad. And I did do a little writing because I couldn't go to sleep that evening because I was right below the catapult, and they run that thing all night.
Yeah. How loud is that when you're below it? Is it insane?
It's insane. I'm like, how do you guys sleep here? You have to sleep with earplugs. I had made earplugs that still didn't work. Those little foamies that never worked anyway. Yeah. I didn't have muffs. I'm like, it's terrible. Yeah, it's a loud night. Those guys are working all night.
Are they look? And I don't know if this is something we can't talk about. Are they launching every 10 minutes? I remember being at Bagram and F-16s coming into land and how loud it was. But
they were. It was my understanding. So this was all unclassed. This whole trip. Yep. So anybody can go. Just Defense Science Board had a couple slots due to a retired admiral, Fox family. They have certain times when they're doing launches and recoveries. But then there's something, and I'm going to screw it up, and I'm sure Navy people will point it out to me, then please correct me. But it's something that they run that catapult, though, without planes on it at other intervals. And I don't know if it's to keep the mechanism functioning. I don't know if it's to keep it lubricated or just to keep me awake. But for some reason, it ran all night. And I was like, what are they doing? Why aren't they sleeping?
Jeez. Okay, so just before we jump into the book and some of your other stories, can we talk just briefly? Can you give people a recap of your background, the military side? So certainly people who listen to the first round, or if you haven't, you can go back and check that out. We go deep into your military service, but just for people to get caught up, can you give them a snapshot real quick, please?
So I joined the Army in 97, and I went through basic training airborne, and back then it was still called Ranger Indoctrination. And then I got to 175, it was April of 97. So I did that until 03, and doing a couple of deployments, and then I went to the Ranger Training Brigade, RTB, that was what it's called.
Yep.
It's changed up. Now it's called RASP and all this other stuff, but back then it was pre-Ranger Rip and Roll. I did that for 2 years while I trained for selection, and I walked in 05, made it, and I started the course on the USASOC unit up here at Fort Belvoir. January 10th, 2006. We retired out January 1st, 2022. I gave some numbers for them.
And retired at what rank?
E9, Sergeant Major.
Yeah, Sergeant Major. Okay, just so people are tracking here, we got a retired Sergeant Major on our hands.
Well, I got out because there was no E10, so there's no reason to keep staying.
Make your own. And then, just some of the things I do recall from our last chat. You got married before you actually technically joined, right? So you didn't go through living in the barracks life.
Correct. My first marriage, I literally, I don't know what the hell I was doing. I graduated college. I had a small landscape company where I was doing like bricks and trees. I closed that down. I graduated college. I got married, and then I went in the Army, all within about 3 months time span. Yeah, I was so big, I guess. I had to get everything done.
God. Right. And then you mentioned obviously a couple deployments early on. As I recall, it was Afghanistan in 02. You go into Iraq in 03 with the Rangers. And then obviously you go into the darker side of the USASOC community,
awesome.
Which is very cool.
I spent most of my time. So I've been back to Iraq, never back to Afghanistan, but I spent most of my time on the continent of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez. All right. So let's jump into Cabal now. So obviously, it's this Dane Cooper series, so the same protagonist from Jones Point, pulling him through. Still has the child element of looking for the lost child. What's the impetus behind this one? What's generating this for you?
So I don't want to ruin Jones Point for people, but they kind of in Jones Point figured out that this is actually literally a group of kidnappers. And then what Cabal gives you. Let me back up real quick. What I tell everybody is, I always compare Jones Point, which I like, Cabal I love. Jones Point is my original Superman, Henry, right? A lot of people are like, it's a little slow, but you had to give so much backstory. Where then I finally kind of given you enough information that I could kind of go all in Jones Point. I mean, the first line, first chapter is Dane sitting on a mountain and thinking to himself, today I have a dentist. It's just, I get to go a lot more action in it. And I get to go deeper in the characters, how the Cabal was created. And we kind of revealed the benefactor at the end of Jones Point. Well, now, at the beginning, we actually flash back in time and see how the whole thing was started. And then they kind of are expanding as a group. And they're looking at this guy from the first book, the Keeper, and what he and his minions are doing. The flip is that the Keeper and his group start to fight back. The Cabal members start to die. And the hunters find themselves being hunted.
Where does it come from? Like, why this kind of structure for you? Are you drawn on any like networks you were looking at back in the day?
No, I guess I kind of try to put my mind into each kind of sides, is what I would do. So I think like, people always ask, were you dating? No, I'm not dating. But my wife will tell you, she's like, smart ass comments you make, say that's you. But I try to put in, what would I do? How would I think? And then I flip it. What would he do to protect himself and his people? So again, not endorsing him by any means. This is not a pro-kid of me, but try to give him realistic. And then same thing, I have the FBI element still there, the state police element still there. Got a little bit deeper. I actually had a good friend, I think you'll like this. He's a retired FBI. And we were talking as I was doing my editing process about it. And he's like, Hag, I've known you for a long time. And I like your books. I like your writing. We wouldn't give a shit. I said, what are you, Nancy, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, we would put zero F. If there's some group going around, we think they're knocking off pedophiles and kidnappers, He goes, we put our most incompetent guy on it, like an office in the corner, and give him no resources. He's like, this is crazy. It's not believable.
Love it. Love it.
I was like, okay, that's pretty fun. But no, I try to, a lot of things I try to do is some realism and research. And like I said, I don't get everything right. And some things I purposely don't get. Like we talked about that before, especially when any kind of military TTPs or technologies or things that I've seen used in the past, I make sure that information is at least 10 to 15 years old. It's not current technology. One of my buddies was like, man, you didn't write, why'd you write about 3G? If I ain't talking about what you're doing with 4, I don't know what you're doing with 5, and God knows what you're doing next. I don't want to compromise. So it's believable, it's plausible, but it's old. And I acknowledge that, and that was the purpose.
Yeah. And I got to imagine, I mean, you've seen your fair share of bad guy networks across the globe. So you can put yourself in their shoes, which I think you can appreciate reading this coming from like a battle-hardened person like yourself who's gone up against complex networks.
Yeah. They've got like the cell network that we saw a lot overseas, right? And how you see here nowadays, they're covering domestic terrorism, cells working independently. And that's what this actually is revealing, that it is a cell and how they communicate and operate. And it may not have come across very, very well in Jones Point. Hopefully it does better. And the other is the dark web chats, and how they're using the dark web in order to communicate and keep themselves safe. And that's just supposed to be just little tidbits, is just getting an idea that they are talking and they are current in events and what's happening with the police, what's happening with the FBI, what's happening with their leaders. And the Cabal uses it as well. But you'll start seeing they start getting a little loosey-goosey with their comms.
Which people get lazy. Yeah.
People get lazy.
Or complacent. Yeah. You'd also mentioned before we hit record that you've got a day job on top of being an author. That's did. And now you're on your own.
Now I'm on my own. So I was the senior advisor for the Defense Science Board, which all of my friends who knew me as a grunt laugh hysterically. There's like no sciencey background. Basically, I was there to bring kind of a special operations flair to a lot of these very, very smart people, but sometimes they might be out of touch with exactly what's going on in the battle. Come up with this gee whiz cool thing that they think the Army should adopt. And I'm like, how's that guy going to carry it? She can break into 10 pieces. It's not getting brought into combat, or it's got to be brought in by vehicle. It can only carry things like that. So when the first fork in the road was offered, I didn't take it. I was like, well, fine. Defense Science Board is going to get wiped out. I am totally safe. And, I've got a pretty good job. It is interesting. And I'm still getting away. Then it came out a second time. And I came home that night and talked to the wife. I was like, something's up. And this one's only open for 7 days. They are looking at a major purge. I said, I think we should jump. So we talked about it for about 2 nights. And then she texted me in the morning, about 10 o'clock in the morning, and said, I made my decision. If you agree, I think you should do it. We signed the paperwork that day. 2 weeks later, board went out.
No way. So
I got put on administrative leave until September 30th. I still receive my paycheck until then. So I tell everybody, that's my severance, and I'm a non-starving artist. So I'm going all in on the books and other projects and seeing if I can get some momentum so that I could do this full time and not have to go back to work September 30th.
Good for you. So you almost got the runway you needed, for several months.
That's what I'm hoping. That's why I'm going all in podcast. Book signings. I've already done several for Jones Point even the last couple of weeks. I've got a whole bunch set up for Cabal. At the launch, I've got a festival the next day, 2-day big festival. I'm putting myself out there as much as possible. I'm trying to learn social media. I got one of those programs, Buffer, where I'm doing cheesy little videos, but it's just anything stuff out there. I'm going around to all the different places where the book is written about and doing some filming and like reading from the book so people can get a visual of what I'm talking about.
Nice. Now, look, we just talked about your background, retired sergeant major. You've been in the special ops community. You probably planned your fair share of gnarly missions. Are you applying any of that planning stuff to this now? You're like, all right, I'm on my own. I got 6 months of time.
It's funny. I actually have a more grueling day now than I did. I still get up at 5:30 every morning. My wife leaves at 6:45. I finish my last cup of coffee. I'm in the den by 7. I'm here 7 to 9. I check socials, make sure everything went out correctly, make sure I didn't miss anything, make sure I replied to everybody. 9 o'clock, it's go walk the dogs, go take a shower, back down, work till about noon, 1 o'clock, take a break, eat something, and then I'm doing other projects as well. So I dedicate time. Like yesterday, I was like, okay, it's kind of an okay day, I'm going to go filming. So I went and filmed for like 6 hours. I drove all around Virginia. We said, we'll take a gas, but cheaper than California gas. But so I got a whole bunch of stuff done. I went to Winchester, where Sam is from. I went to the police station where I put the Bureau of Investigation. That is really where they are. I went to one of the parks, Fountainhead, that's in Cabal, where a failed kidnapping occurs and they catch the guy. It's kind of a turning point. But then I went down to Madigan's in Occoquan because Jack and one of his contacts, an old SAS buddy, meet there and have lunch. So just kind of give people a feel for the area. About 85% of the book is here. Jumped to Savannah for a little bit, and I did go there. And we jumped to Somaliland. I did not make a trip to Somaliland.
Possibly you've already seen it. We don't have to get into that.
Yeah,
hypothetically.
Yeah. Hypothetically, I know what that area looks like.
Look, I was wondering if we could take this discussion, because we had talked about some of your experiences downrange before, just given the fact that you have this long background with special operations in leadership roles throughout. I wanted to talk a little bit about leadership specifically and kind of what you've observed, and then also what you've seen since you've gotten out. So I am curious, from like looking at your long career, are there a couple moments where either you saw good or bad leadership from others, or where you really had a significant burden on yourself and you really saw the Ranger side and you saw the USASOC side, which many people don't and can only imagine?
The Ranger side, I could say, is actually very impressive, and it's matured a lot since I was even first in very young. So as I started getting up through the ranks, it was maturing to a point where, and when I say maturing, I mean that there was always that leadership element in Ranger Regiment, right? You're an E3, you got to know the E4's job. In the E4, you got to know the team sergeant's job, right? They take one of the running legs, you got to pick up. That's always been there. That's one of the Rangers' strongest suits. But what you started to see is more of the relationship between the officers and the senior NCOs, especially as the war moved on. Because officers would rotate in, it might be the first rotation, but when they got a platoon sergeant, this is fourth rodeo. So you saw working more as teams. And I'm not saying that they were calling each other Bob and Joe like they do in the SOCOM USASOC units, but you saw a lot more respect for each other's capabilities and experience, which was there before, but never quite the level. Even my last trip to Afghanistan, there was a PL, there was a platoon sergeant, and then I was the weapons squad leader, the senior. He said, we broke into 3 groups. I mean, I had 10 guys, he had 10 guys, he had 12 guys, and we moved on the objective like that. And I had an RTO, one guy had an FO, and another one had a ETAC. So we had the big comms with us each, and we moved as separate elements. I mean, that's unheard of in an infantry type operation. So the Rangers have really, really come a long way in really, especially an organization that takes in privates. Because they're wrong privates. Yeah. I can't put up a GP medium without them, but, getting that, bringing in that very basic level of experience and accelerating them, their abilities very quickly. It's very impressive. And I stay in touch with the community. They're doing amazing things in this job. So it's pretty impressive. But then you still see those toxic leaders though, who micromanage, and they've got to be in charge and we will follow my orders. The enemy gets a vote, right? We can start a plan and we may have to shift in flight because, they decided to put an IED here or put a machine gun here. You got to give us some flexibility. So I think that's getting bred out though, at least in the special operations community. That's pretty much gone. Guy on the ground gets to make the decision. As long as it's not illegal or immoral.
Well, you almost worry with the technological advancements that it makes it so much easier for someone hundreds or thousands of miles away to be a part of the mission when you probably don't want them to be. And you would have to almost be intentional in not allowing them to intervene.
I've seen that kind of scenario. And I will keep it very, very vague, but it was an overseas event. It was being broadcast at a jog. There was communication abilities to make calls from that armchair. And I was a senior sergeant major at the time. It was the S3. And I basically told them, mute everybody in the room. Unless they're about to walk in and do something, you got to let that team lead in the ground do his thing. He has planned this. So what we used to do, which I think will lead to this, it's interesting, is when guys were going to do missions overseas, and you fight hard at this finger time in the agency, we would do a murder board, just like you guys would. So we would take all the senior NCOs. The officer said, you guys run it because you've done it the most. So we take all the senior, I'd take all the E9s and we'd sit in a conference room and we would grill that dude for like 2 hours. What if this happens? What if this happens? Sometimes it got a little out of control, right? You can only plan for 15 contingencies. It's so stupid. But a lot of times, there was times we came out of that room and we said, no, he needs to go back to the drawing table. She knows to go back to the drawing table because there's a couple of contingencies that are very likely that's not covered. So let's push a week. Let's push 2 weeks. Or they are ready to go. For the love of God, take the reins off, let that person go. So, just kind of interesting. That's what it led to that one mission where everybody's wanting to suddenly chime in. I'm like, stop. We all said, let him go. We all voted unanimously. Everybody stop. Let him do his thing. And it worked out.
What are some of the attributes that were most important when you were picking or selecting somebody to get into those units, whether it was on the Ranger side or the elite, the further elite side?
So I actually ran the selection for our unit for 2.5 years. And we have this pens over here with all the attributes, perseverance and integrity. And those are important. I always looked at someone who didn't make the same mistake twice. I like the guy who continues to learn. I don't like the guy who's perfect all the time because that guy's never faced failure. When he faces failure for the first time, I don't want it to be during a mission. I want him to face failure in training. I want them to take chances. I went to a course for SDRs, and I had a great instructor. He's from the 80s. He's retired, and he let us do we came up with some out of the box. We described what routes we're going to run and how we're going to do a handoff or a passive and object. He's like, never even heard of them. Well, give it a whirl. Might as well give it a whirl here where, it's safe and you're not going to get anybody killed. Sometimes it works, sometimes it didn't. So when I was in the selection course, that's what I always looked for. I always looked for the guy in the scale who's continually improving. Don't get me wrong, we kept the ones we were doing with him, but the guy that was continually improving was learning and adapting is what really I look for as the most important quality.
And then how about looking back in some of the more powerful kind of leadership teams you were a part of? Mm-hmm. Are there one or two other leaders that come to mind that were like, these guys were just kick-ass for whatever reason? So
I will say one of the best leaders I had, and also one of the most infuriating at times, was General Fenton. Great dude.
Was he general at the time, Sean?
At the time he was lieutenant colonel, then colonel.
Wow.
Then he left. I didn't serve under him really as a general, ever ancillary, but and I kind of, people ask me about his leadership. Again, it was never perfect. None of us are perfect. There's things I disagreed with, there's things I agreed with, and I'm sure the same is for him. He's probably not thinking. Is we were down because we couldn't, Fort Belvoir doesn't have a range, so we had to go down to AP Hill. I don't know what it's called now, but I still want to call it AP Hill because I don't know what the name. We came back at probably 12:30, 1 o'clock. The only person that had to be there was the armorer to open up the arms room. Fenton was in the parking lot, helping us unload, asking how training. I'm like, what are you doing? It's like 1 a.m. on a Thursday. Did somebody give you a ribbon? That's not allowed. No caffeine for the boss after 5 o'clock. But it's just, that was the kind of leader that his guys were out. So I hope he went home, had dinner with his family, stuff, and came back. But he was like, hey, I'm going to make sure everything's good, everybody's safe, everything's accounted for. So that's the kind of leader I can really appreciate.
And he wasn't making a big show of it. You just happened to see it.
No, we pulled in and he's out in the lot. He's right, let's unload.
Why was he infuriating?
Well, because he was maybe infuriating is not the right word, frustrating at times. You wind him up and he doesn't stop. He doesn't stop. I've actually got another funny story. So he was friends with a neighbor of mine. This is, I think, when he was working up for the Secretary of Defense. It was the MA, the Secretary of Defense. I think it was a 1-star at the time. And my buddy and I had a dock together, Prince William Marina. And there's times, like, he's got a lot of people on his boat, so he'll put a cooler or something on my boat to make room and vice versa, right? No big deal. So I come down to check my boat out that day, make sure it's got gas, and I see one of his buddies stepping on my boat, putting stuff on. So I'm gonna screw with him. So I was like, hey, you, what the hell are you doing on my boat? It turns around, it was General Fenton. I'm like, sir? No, just kidding, it's off. You didn't get permission to come aboard.
How did he, just out of curiosity, like when you first met, how did he ingratiate himself with you or the team? Was there any things that he did specifically?
I think that he listened. I think he realized that he, even though he was the boss, that everybody had something to bring to the table. He was also engaged. He wanted to know what you thought. We used to go out the door. I mean, you'd have to go to the commander and this frustrating. When we had to go out brief, we had to bring our maps, our passports. We'd be in a suit. He comes in from the gym, and I'm a Michigan grad, and he's wearing a Notre Dame ball cap, t-shirt, and shorts. And I was like, and I'm sitting there in a suit, just dying, neck all uncomfortable because we don't like to wear suits. Yep. And I'm just really, really. So, but he wanted to talk to the intel, wanted to talk, that you really, like, we were supposed to get really in depth. Like, he was quizzing me because he was the commander of that task force that I was going to. So, I mean, literally, we were back and forth. And he got me on one thing, and he's like, well, it's not fair because I came out and the report this morning. I haven't distributed you guys yet. But that's how he was. I mean, you needed to know. But he wants your thoughts. You said you're going to do a mission this way, and he wants it another way, and you back and forth and kind of negotiating.
When you think about, I think the traditional leader is like, you got this person in a uniform who's at the top of the hierarchy. I was just chatting with former or a Medal of Honor recipient Ryan Pitts, who was in Afghanistan, a conventional unit, but just talking a lot about leadership where you're just a guy on the team and can still kind of lead depending on what's going on. Any stories like that come to mind from some of your guys or the people you worked with where they weren't technically in a leadership role, but they just step up in certain environments?
Yeah, I think, quite frankly, coming from the NCO side, that's kind of what we had to do, right? Because we might have been leaders, but we were not ones giving orders. I might have been the senior guy, and people would ask me behind my back what I thought and good, but would never cross the commander. But a lot of times you had the commanders going, "You're the SME, or you've been there before. What's your take on it? I need your take. I need your input." I had another commander, Ryan Armstrong, great guy. Another, don't give him caffeine. But he'd grab me all the time. I'm working on doing something else. He's like, "Hey, come with me. We're going to go to this meeting." "Oh, we're talking about POA, this and that. I know you've been there a bunch, so I want you in there helping advise me when we do stuff. When we talk with this group." Okay. Yeah. I'll grab my clean ball cap. Let's go. So
do you get any, I don't know, duds in the units like that? I mean, even the Rangers, then you look at USASOC, you just imagine it's the cream of the crop. I assume you still get some folks that aren't as great.
You do. And a lot of times too, sometimes those people haven't found their legs yet. Sometimes, they are plunged into an entirely new environment. And it's hard for them, especially going to the kind of free range SOCOM side is, they're like at your office at 8:00 and you're like, "What?" "Well, I'm here." You don't work for the team. You're on your mission. You're doing your mission planning. If you want to come in at 10, I don't give a shit. As long as everything's done, you can stay at midnight. You can get up during lunch and go work out. I don't mind. Just stop it. So sometimes people would get they'd be too regimented in their structures with previous units that they just needed somebody. And on that note, some guys and girls can't work alone. We traditionally work
Interesting.
alone.
Yeah.
So, but if you think about it, it's totally normal. I mean, we build fire teams, we build squads, we build platoons, we build companies. And what do? We have competitions, and it's Charlie Company versus Bravo Company, and first squad versus third squad, right? And you build that unit cohesion. Then I had my first team leader in the unit. I didn't meet him for 2 years. I had a glowing in CLARs, but I was out. He was on training. I was on a training. He went over to work here. He went downtown to do a bit with a task force. Never met him. 2 years. Dang. We had a guy leave for a year, go back to the Marine Corps, serve a year, because the Marines at the time wouldn't let guys stay indefinitely, and came back, and none of us knew. Didn't even know he left. I had no idea.
Because people could just be gone because you were just solo on a lot of these.
Yeah. Or he's in a training course, and then I went out to a training course, and then he went to support selection, but I went overseas, and so it's normal. The team room was 8 people, and there was never more than 2 in there.
Jeez. And yet you're right. Like you got to be comfortable on your own, because not just like an op on your own, but in between, like you're at hotels and you're just by yourself for a while.
Yeah, a lot of books.
A lot of books. That's right. Were you writing at that time? I remember you saying you wrote home to your girls when you were deployed, but that was different.
That was different. I was not writing. I just finished up my master's in American military history right as I was finishing Ranger Regiment and going to the. So I actually graduated like during the course. I already done all my stuff and stuff, and I pretty much took a hiatus from that because we also do a lot of writing in the unit too. I mean, it sounds all glorious and glamorous, but it's a lot of computer time and dossiers and writing. I'm preaching to the choir. There's still a lot of that 90 to 95% of the background research you got to do and planning and that. So I had my fair share, but we worked long hours too. It wasn't, I wasn't necessarily clock every day that I'm working time and mental energy.
Jeez. All right. So now you're out, obviously, and you got out, you worked, you kind of, trying to make it now, obviously. Maybe when you were still working, but out of the military, what, any change in the leadership perspective? I mean, you were at the Pentagon, you were still around the military.
Well, what does mom say? If you don't have something nice to say, it's just a different environment. And it's not. There's great people there, and I should not pick on the Pentagon, but it's just a different way of life. It's a different pace. They're concerned about different things. They heard me say a million times, they're running on frantically. I'm like, who's shooting at us? Relax. It's not life, limb, or isolate. We'll get this done in plenty of time. This is not long. And then now, when my last job, I was in the leadership role. I mean, they come down. Well, the front office wants this by 4:00. I'm like, it's 3:30 on a Friday. That's like a 2-hour report. Well, they want it. Well. Tell them they're not going to get it. Give me the email. Let them know they're not going to get it. But we have a deadline. They gave it to us. This is not that important for everybody to start cutting into the weekend.
Yeah.
If it was, then we would do it, but it's not. That's the problem. Prioritization. And I think there's a lot of fluff at the Pentagon. Really do. I don't think it's necessarily people are bad at their jobs. We've created such a bureaucracy. I mean, so for this book. This is a great example. For this book to get published, just like the first one, I had to send it through what's called DOPS, DoD Security Review, what have you. We have to do the same thing in the Defense Science Board. When like members write papers, I get my stuff done as a civilian twice as fast because I don't go through all these government staffing offices. Yeah, mine got done in 4 months.
Oh, you're saying through DSB?
But through DSB, that would take maybe 8 months, 10 months.
Ooh.
Because we've got to go through so many shops before DOPS are. I didn't have to go to legal. I didn't have to go to biz ops. I didn't have to go to whatever ops. It's got to route through like 9 people. Why are we doing this? This is ridiculous. And then it finally gets for clearance release. So my whole point is we've created our own. Now, don't get me wrong, checks and balances are important.
Yeah.
I want to make sure right people are checking documents, 1 for security, 2 for authenticity and accuracy. Got it. But wow, it's really slow. I mean, really slow.
Let me ask you this. I mean, in the world that I'm in, I've gone obviously from the Army to the agency and then to like big tech companies, and I'm at a smaller one now. And having seen bureaucracies, and there's benefits to them for sure, and some challenges. I'm kind of in a place where as the teams grow, you can see bureaucracy creeping in. And I guess I'm asking you, from having been at the tip of the pointiest spears, you probably had to fight something similar. Like, how do you keep bureaucracy out and keep this culture the way it is? Do you have any things you saw that worked?
I will say this, this will be unpopular, I saw SOCOM starting to get too big as I was getting out. And the bureaucracy going through. Now, there were still layers that we're speeding stuff up, but for certain other projects, I kind of felt like we were asking too many people to chime in on things, to give their expertise or give their opinion, or in some cases, I remember even just to keep it extremely vague, there was like one single point of contact at SOCOM that it had to go through this guy before it could move further. And if he didn't like it, I'm like, why does that one guy can stop the whole thing? If I had got a colonel, military, we approved it. We had a 2 or 3 star, another command that approved it. Who the hell is that guy? Stop it. All right. So it's the rice bowls. And that's what I think is one of the problems with it. The DoD writ large is the rice bowls and the this is mine instead of this is ours.
Yeah.
And I do think that's a problem. Now, do I think some of it is natural because it's self-serving because people want to keep jobs and they keep employed? So I can't blame them. But at the same time, it's like, we're all on the same team here. You should be saying, why not instead of why? If there's a problem with it, help me find a solution. Don't just say no, next. That's just counterproductive. That's why I think some of your smaller, leaner outfits, even the civilian world, I'm not going to live in it, but I think they're that way because they're willing to take some of the risk.
Mm-hmm.
And they're willing to move out and find creative solutions instead of just throwing it all.
Yeah.
It wasn't always that way. But there's been some frustrating moments when I'm like, are you kidding? Are you kidding? Are you kidding? This is ridiculous.
And then, we obviously have to be sensitive around this one, just given where you'd worked, but I do follow what goes on in Russia and Ukraine pretty closely now with not just drones, but like you're hearing about motorcycle companies or battalions being stood up to just move in these environments. I would be amazed to see what the Rangers are doing today to prepare for whatever the next war is. And I'm just curious from your perspective, having been in so many fights, what do you think it's like out there now and where we're going?
I think it's terrifying that, you are now vulnerable from so many different attack vectors that maybe didn't exist. The drone on drone warfare is terrifying to the infantry because there's nothing you can do, nowhere you can go. I mean, everybody was joking about artillery and mortar rolls and such, but frankly, I've studied a lot of history as well. They're good to scare people, but they're not actually effective. Right? They're putting one round, and if it's disaggregated forces, it may not get. But these drones are very precise. I mean, they are basically flying claymores, able to wipe out large groups of soldiers at a time. And quite frankly, the technology to take them out does not seem to be 100% there yet. Or if it is super expensive, and/or we don't have the supply chain in place to be making all these exquisite, really expensive weapons to deal with. So we've got to find something cheap, fast to protect our troops.
How, I guess if you were still back in uniform, like how are you trying to keep up with and train against this? Now, it's not like you didn't face, evolving technology and IEDs and counter IED, et cetera. Just feels like this is a very rapid movement and you got AI on top of it.
Yeah, so if I was still back in, I would be telling my guys is number one, still concentrate on the basics. We have got to be able to shoot moving community.
Yeah.
This is the most important thing. As we're doing it, study the environment, and then I want the lowest level. I want the brand new private who just put down his Xbox career to come in here and give me requirements. That's what we need. I don't need somebody in OUSDR&E telling me a requirement, and requirements need to come from the ground. Same time, those requirements need to be adopted by commanders. You mean
requirements like R&D or technical development to enable the private?
The Rangers in Iraq in, I think it was 06 or 07, was starting to have IED problems and RPG problems. And they actually, with their strikers, they got them. That's when they first developed the cage around the striker. And then they got jamming equipment to jam cell phones. And I know, because God bless them, they were coming through the area. We didn't know we were conducting an operation, and our comms went dead. And everybody's, of course, yelling. Like, that was a team effort, and everybody's always, of course, damn Rangers, nice job, Hager. You guys just screwed this up for us. They didn't know, but things like that. That guarantee, that requirement came from the lowest level, from the squad leaders, from the team leaders, from the team. What do we need? Okay, RPGs are hitting us. We need something. We need it out. I don't know the exact range, but we need it out a certain distance from the actual hull for it to explode, and therefore will penetrate. So whatever that distance is, they built those cages. We know this is the basic cell phone cellular range. Again, I'm not a techie. I simply have to say to the techies is, hey, I need you to shut that off. I can shut that off for a quarter-mile radius around my home. Again, I'm making up stuff, but that's what I would look at. What is our role? And it's got to be from the guys in the room.
Did you, and especially your time at the science board, maybe you saw this more clearly, but When you were in some of these units, did you have the R&D genius guy close by where you could talk to them?
I had an R&D section in my S3 shop.
No
I
way.
had
Just
contractors,
some scientists like
students. Had a whole big place, and it was a mad sciences factory. And we would come with a requirement, and they would go, and I go bird dog it, figure out how we can do this, and then okay, we need more. We got to bring it to scale, or we can't afford it. Now we need to go to hire, see if someone will sponsor. But I can't remember what the budget was, but yeah, they were there, and the guys would do rotations, and when guys had nothing to do for the day, they just go over to the shop and play with something, play with the new technology.
And they're literally just like tinkering and building and
soldering benches.
That's badass.
Just Naples. It was pretty cool. The cars up on lifts and what you can do to them. And I just go over there now and get a cup of coffee just to watch them all scurry around. But there's programmers, there's all sorts of stuff over there. Yeah, it was cool.
So you got to imagine today they're probably looking at like, hey, how does this drone operate? Like, what would we need?
Yeah, I'm assuming anti-drone technology is the big thing. And it's got to be is either directed energy or something like that. Is how what kind of pulse can we shoot this thing? And I know they were in the early 2000 or actually late 2010s. They were testing the anti-drone technology on a small scale. Another company out in the desert for like around embassies and stuff to emit something so that they would drop before they got the exact technology. I don't know where they are at, but I know that was even the case back then before this Ukraine stuff kicked off. And they're so cheap. I mean, anybody can fly them. That's what's scary.
Especially this generation. If it's not AI controlled and you need a human on it, like you've got kids now who are gifted at doing this.
Oh yeah, I can't. No, not me. No, mine will burn out.
Oh, I'm with you. Yeah, but these guys, and they could probably do it in teams, because they've just been playing these games together.
Well, actually, I did use it once overseas. We used it at very early days. This is the mid 2015s. We used it as an FO for artillery, and basically, it flew off like an iPad, and they would just launch it. And then they had a dry erase board and just do the quick, dirty math and calculations. But we didn't use it in combat. We used it for training. So it was like, hey, to shoot up over a mountain to force someone to put a person up there and put the drone. Later, ISIS began shooting us down, so that didn't work. But technology got better, and the drones could go higher and out of small arms. But yeah, that was initial testing was up there in Kirsten. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay. So, Sean, what's next for the writing side of things? You mentioned some other projects. You don't have to get into them if they're sensitive, but like what are you looking at now down the road?
Well, like I said, the big thing right now is the push up to June 6th and beyond. So I'm setting up stuff all the way up to the launch, and then my signings, podcasts, any festivals in the area, going to a couple conferences in August and September down in New Orleans and in Nashville, writers' conferences. I just went to one just outside of Seattle, Bellingham. Jones Point won first place in the Chance Clear Awards. So I took first place in the Clue Awards. So I traveled out for that. There's also networking writers conference. So I'm going to take this next 5 months. Book 3 is in the works. It's mapped. It's partially written. I still have a lot of ways to go, but basically just kind of developing my network and really trying to get the book out there, both books out there. Continue, and hopefully, like I said, not have to go back to work October 1st.
How do you map your book? Like physically, how do you do it?
Oh, do the 5 prints. I write them all out and I sit at my kitchen table and I move the chapters around. And I write what characters are going to be in that. Very, very nascent, but the basic scheme of maneuver of that chapter. And by the way, everything is done in a great spot. And it's how I learned. I keep them in these little recipe type book. It's just that's how I did my history stuff. I was taught that in one of my historical research classes on how to keep your thoughts organized, your notes, your references, and I kind of use the same logic here, and it seemed to really work for me. So yeah, but even now, I just did one the other day, and I came home from work and sit at the table. I guess we're not eating dinner at this table. Just let me get some organized, and then I'll put them away. But I got to change. Chapter 22 is now going to be 23, and chapter 26, I'm going to write a new one. That's going to be 22. So, and even that, when Cabal was finished, I actually, right before my editor was done with it, ready for press, I gave them another chapter. I took the first chapter from the new book and put it as the last chapter.
Smart.
Didn't like it. what he does in that chapter, I'm like, no, he would have done that in Cabal. He would not have waited. So I moved the thing up. My editor was like, oh, Jesus. But it was not a huge long chapter, but her and the director of the director of publishing were like, all right, no, that ties it. That closes it much better. So yeah, that was the last minute. So I got to get a new chapter for that one.
How do you do characters with your cards? Like, do you have a stack of cards that are like just Dane, for instance?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've got a bunch of these. I've got like 6 that are Dane. Now, I did recently get like some more character development bio sheets from a friend, and I started doing those, but the problem was it gets into some of the depth and level that I really don't think I need. I mean, they're like, what's a zodiac sign? What's sexual preference? I'm like, well, I was married to a woman. Really need to start writing all this down. So I get it. For depth of characters, it's needed, but I kind of feel like the characters have grown as I've been writing. So, the character Sam, if I could go back in time, I would have written him more in Jones Point. He's way more in Cabal than way more in the Third. It's like,
interesting.
Character that as I started writing, I'm like, I really kind of like this guy. A couple spots I put him in, and might kind of mess up the story because they were still trying to keep, playing the cat and mouse with the reader, so they wanted to keep reading. So things like that, but it was fun getting to develop the characters in the next one. Like you really get to see Charles, the president. You really get to see the benefit of it. Jack, the aide to the president, takes off in the second book. They started right at the end of Jones Point. He's now a pivotal part. So there's a couple new characters, well, 3 or 4 that come into the club. So, and of course, I had my wife made me write a love interest. I was told I had to. So it's not a smart novel by any means, but not smart. I kept it very tasteful, but I did bring in a love interest because he got that exceeding time frame.
Okay, and then for people who can't see, I mean, you've got the books behind you. You got Jones Point, you got Cabal, you got for those who are listening and not watching, and then also your hat, Sean. What's that? Can you just speak?
The Ranger Diamond.
Yeah.
So for to me at one of the reunions.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What are those like? How crazy do those get?
So I just come back for about 3 weeks ago. I go to the Charlie Company, Hard Rock Charlie Company, 1751 down in Florida. I went last year. Dumbass jumped out of the airplane into a lake with alligators. This year, I was in St. Augustine in a river, so now we're looking at alligators and sharks. I did not jump, having some sciatica and some spine issues right now that hopefully soon will be taken care of. So next year I would jump. But my liver hates me. But it was also awesome to just, there's the first time I went back to skies, I hadn't seen in 20 some odd years, and we just picked right back up conversations like it was nothing. I mean, and the support. I mean, I got a guy who lives out in Idaho, owns gaming stores, like Martin. He's ordering books. He's putting the books in his stores and selling them.
That's awesome.
A lot of booksellers. I'm going to get in my neighborhood, this community of all of us merchants. I'm going to get them to buy your books. Cool, thanks. So it's just there's something about the Ranger community that a Ranger never, that another Ranger fan will never swim, will always try to help. So I'm blessed to have gotten kind of informed about these reunions, and my wife Misty gets to come, and because she didn't know, you weren't married when I was a Ranger. So after the first one came back home, she said, "You guys are animals." She said, "That is crazy. We cannot stay up at 4 a.m. every night. What is wrong with you?"
That's great. Hey, do you do the same thing with USASOC folks, or is that like you just never really spend enough time together because you're all going different directions?
I think there's not as much the team come up. I still talk to a few guys here and there, but no, we don't do big reunions. We don't do. A lot of the guys stay in the area too. I mean, a lot of people gravitate towards government contract work. So I like my book launch on the 6th. There'll be 5-10 guys there who show up. Cool. So now see guys that maybe I haven't seen in 2-3 years, but again, they're friends. But I don't think it's kind of hard for people who haven't been involved in like small niche units, but the camaraderie you build, even the company. Right. So there's guys there that I maybe never directly worked with or never directly employed with, but they were still in the company and training events with and picnics and barbecues. And I mean, you make true friends for life. Yeah.
I think maybe the only, like, at least from my experience with the agency, which is not like USASOC, but a little closer probably, is if you go through the farm, like the training together, you're tight, like forever. Yeah. You've just been through the suck together at the same time. But you're right. Once you get to the units, it's like, or stations for us, it's everybody's kind of going their own way and
same thing. Whoever you went through the course with, Yeah, you still talk to this day, but some of the other guys, and again, it's nothing personal. It's just that you don't develop response. You always see someone a couple times a month, for a couple of years, and I don't see them again for a year when they go back to the Marines.
All right, just before we wrap, Sean, what are you reading these days if it's not one of your own books and drafts?
Actually, an author friend of mine that helped me with Blue Handle Publishing, she just launched her new book, Butterfly Pinned. It was Leslie Leoto, and I'm currently reading that. And
same genre as yours, Sean?
No, totally different genre. No, I don't even know how to describe it. It's dark. It's dark. I like it. It's dark. I really am not reading as much as I want to be, but at the same time, I was talking with some authors out there. One of them was J.D. Barker. He writes for Johnny Grisham. And he did warn, he said, I always tell, especially up and coming young authors, be very careful reading while you're writing, because you can start inadvertently and subconsciously adopting styles. It's not necessarily plagiarism, but you could possibly suppress your own voice. So I've took that to heart, but at the same time too, is every time I have a free moment where in the past I would pick up a book, now I'm picking up my Remarkable, or I'm jumping on and I'm getting a couple videos for the social. So it's kind of like I'm so invested in mine that I'm not really reading as much as I used to. Even on the airplane. I'm writing, I'm editing, I'll sit there. I flew to Seattle 6 hours straight and I wrote the whole time.
Yeah.
That's, maybe go to the bathroom once and get another cup of coffee. That's about it. So I need to start doing that.
Interesting. I think I know the answer to this, but you contemplating, or staying all the way away from AI when it comes to this?
Oh, you have to. Now, I guess there's certain points where it's acceptable for like book summaries, I think, or something, but I don't touch them. I know there's people who caught generating using AI to generate book covers. Actually, my book cover is done again by the same friend of mine who did the
nice.
Jones Point Lighthouse. Robin Mackey, she did. We actually did a group trip to Michigan, and actually that slide on the front cover and that lighthouse that's from Lake Michigan, up in a town called Charlotte. We went there, we rented a house, and she and I went out one morning down there and tried to keep that same empty swings theory with the slide, and her picture made the cover. But no, I don't even put AI in a sentence. It's bad for writers.
Got it. All right. So how can people find you then, Sean, with your socials and whatnot?
So my website's still up and running, authorseanhaggerty.com, and it's got all the links to the books. I also can be found at Blue Handle Publishing, author Sean Haggerty. They have it on their page. And then I'm on Instagram. I'm only using 4: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Everybody laughs at LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my strongest.
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah, it is huge. So, that's where I'm pushing everything on across.
What are the handles on like Instagram? Are they all the same, or are they all different? Because we can just throw them in the description. That's fine.
I put my own glasses on.
No, it's all right. We'll get them. We'll put them in.
Okay. Good. I'll take them off. Don't want to feel 50.
And then I guess last thing, you mentioned the book launch on the 6th. What's going on with the launch? Like, is it an event you're doing?
Oh yeah. So I'm starting to push that all out next week. I've also got family and friends coming in. There's the old Lorton prison. I don't know if you remember in your time living here, they turned it into a workhouse art gallery. And because I was going to do it in downtown Occoquan like I did last time, but the fair is the next day, the 7th and the 8th. I won't be able to get anybody in town parking. The town's blocked off. So we did there, which is a really cool venue. They'll have outdoor music. There's other events, and it's in a U-shaped. So we got one little corner in the news gallery, and all the other galleries have events. There's a stage set up, there'll be music. There's a brewery, small microbrewery right there. So we're hoping to get a pretty good crowd of people swinging by.
Awesome. Well, Sean, good luck with this one, and then keep us updated for the 3rd, and we'll have links to everything so people can find the book, find the socials, and connect with you.
Awesome. We appreciate it.